Hi everyone, so we are now inside of a tasting room at Pichon Baron. I'm here with Nicolas Santier and we're going to taste some lovely vertical tasting of the last five years of their wines. Will be very interesting, can't wait.
Okay, Nicolas. So we will start with the 2019, which is still in the barrels right now. It's close to the end of the aging process that should last a good 18 months. And this was a blend of 87 Cabernet Sauvignon, and the rest is Merlot, 13%.
Can you remember something from this year? What was very important of what makes this wine so good?
What makes this wine important for us is that we had a very warm summer, above the average, I would say. And so we had a very high potential of alcohol, and sometimes a low acidity, especially on the Merlot. So that's why the Merlot took so few space in the blend, because for us, you didn't add the same balance. But it's a nice vintage, because compared to what you will have later with 18 or 16, which are more classical style, there you have a good flesh. For me, it's a candy. You know, it's very approachable, very round, very almost sexy for me.
It's really exotic. That's what I was thinking. Very exotic, very spicy, but it's very complex. Wow. So very hard question, but if you have to put a date on it, when is the good window, drinking window?
So I will say 10 years, even if I won't respect it because I'm not patient at all. But usually 10 years is a good waiting period for a Pauillac. Even if 19, you know, could be for me drunk after 5-6 years. It's all a matter of choice, a matter of taste. But it's true that if you have 10 years ahead, it's better.
Nice. Okay.
Otherwise, you have to buy cases and cases and drink one every year, and it's okay for me as well if you want to buy cases and cases. No problem.
Yes, no, yes.
But even if you have, you know, this nice attack, this flesh on the attack, you still have the freshness and the length of a classical Pauillac.
Very smooth as well. It's really complex because in the beginning we have the spice, but at the same time when you swallow, it's very velvety. Finish very tact. Yeah, it's a nice one.
The fruit is there. You can still feel the tannin on the gum. It needs a little bit more time. This should be bottled next June, I believe. So then it will need some time in the bottle. But for me, it's already a jewel. You know, it's already very attractive.
So for the people that bought En Primeur 2019 was a very good choice.
It's a good choice, yeah. Very good choice.
2018.
There we go. So this is another great vintage. Once again, this is in the bottle since a little less than a year now. It was bottled in the past months of June. The blend is very close. The blend of the 18 was 78 Cabernet Sauvignon and 22 Merlot.
Okay.
For us, this is a little bit more classical because you didn't have the same heat during the summer. So it means that the Cabernet and the Merlot are maybe not as concentrated as what you had in the 19, but you have for me in this one you have the finesse, the freshness, and the length, which is a good characteristic for a great Pauillac.
Yeah. It's already in the nose, indeed. If I can say, is a little bit more feminine. If I can say.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Even if it's not an adjective we use a lot for Pichon Baron, more for the neighbor. But when you compare the style of the two chateaus in the past 20 years, you could say that Baron is a little less masculine, whereas Comtesse is maybe a little less feminine as well. So it's a natural evolution.
Very nice bouquet of herbs, a little bit floral. Very nice. Dark fruits, it's nice.
The entrance is more subtle, you know, it's not as dense as what you had in the 19, but even now you can still feel the tannins and the acidity and the fruit. The length is just amazing. So that's for us a very classical, great Pauillac style.
So for now, I'm very curious for the 2017, because you have 2015, 16, very good years, 18, 19, very good years, and 2017, it's a little bit Forgotten, no?
It is because it's the little brother of the decade. It was maybe one of the most difficult vintage we had with 2013 as well. That was very difficult, but you know, sometimes 2-3 degrees of difference, a little bit more rain in September can make a big difference in the bottle. We are very proud of this wine, and I'm quite sure that our grandfather 40 years ago wouldn't have done a 17 with the same crop. You know, it was a tough year to manage, but it's not green, it's not arch, it's approachable. French people are very stubborn, sometimes too stubborn, but we have learned not to make the same vinification process for every vintage. And it makes a big difference at the end in the bottle.
Do you know the blend for this one?
Sure. So the blend for the 17 was 79 Cabernet and 21 Merlot.
So every time very close to each other?
It's just a matter of yield, more or less, except for the 19 when we have made a stronger selection on the Merlot. But it's always more a matter of yield than plots, because we know that the same area will become Pichon. There are some additions sometimes, but you know, it's really more a matter of yield in the plot.
I just realized when I was tasting, I didn't spit. No. It was very hard because it's very elegant to drink. So is it just me, or from the area, is Pichon Baron a little bit the highest of Merlot percentage?
No, I would say when you go to Pichon Comtesse, there is a lot of Merlot as well. In Linge-Bage as well, there is Merlot. There is always Merlot in the Médoc. You know, it's a nice way to combine with the Cabernet Sauvignon. And even the neighbor like Latour has something like 10-15% of Merlot almost every year.
So no Petit Verdot?
No Petit Verdot in those wines. We have some planted. It's close to Linge-Bage in the north. It goes into some second wines nowadays, like Les Tourelles de Longueville or Les Griffons de Pichon. It depends on the year. It's still a baby vine for us. It's under 15 years old, so maybe one day it will go into Pichon, but at this step, no.
Okay, that was a question. Okay, that's interesting to know.
So what do you think of the 17?
Very nice. It's really strange to know that it's a overlooked year. It's in the shadows of the big years, because yeah, it's so approachable right now. Wow, for such an age, very young.
In this range, you know, if we compare at the end, if we go back on the 17, it's going to be a little bit tough for it because it's surrounded by big wines. But on a mill, right now, in a blind way, you would not say it comes from a so-called difficult vintage, because you have everything. You have the fruit, you have the length, the finesse. It's almost approachable now.
Yeah, it's great. It's a nice one. If you drink at the perfect time, it will be a great wine.
Exact.
Yeah.
So, 16.
Very big one.
A big vintage. In the style of 18, I would say.
That was the second time I really invested in Pichon Baron. So 2015 was the first time people really told me, look Yannick, 15 you need to buy en primeur. It was my first time. And then 2016 as well. And I'm very happy that I did it.
So once again, a balanced Cabernet Merlot. This is 85 Cabernet Sauvignon, 15 Merlot. It belongs to the classical style. 15, 19 will be known as warm vintage. For me, 16, 18 are more classical style. And this is a big boy. Wow. There's a strong fruit, a good complexity.
The wine has so much character. He has a lot to tell. Right. It's a young baby, ready to become a legend. Huh?
Wow. You have the flesh all along the mouth. Maybe it's closing up a little bit because it's not so expressive in the mid palate. You know, you have a kind of tiny gap, but the flesh is still there, and it ends up on very nice tannins, a good acidity, a good freshness. You know, this with a duck breast on the barbecue, perfect.
Don't start with food because I'm thirsty and hungry at the same time. Wow. 16.
I'm not patient, so I have some of those wines at home, and I've got so many friends who come often knocking on the door oh, so what can we eat and what can we drink? And so we end up opening Pichon sometimes too early, but you know,
enjoy the wine.
Exact. You let it breathe. You're with your friends. You have a good time. That's wine. You know, that's it.
Indeed. It's very hard to know that you need to wait 10 years. But I really love the process of buying en primeur, waiting. It's really the maximum that you need to learn of patience.
And I think it's a work of patience. It's a kind of commitment because you pay your wine, you don't have it yet. You receive it one day and then you're very pleased, you know,
yes.
And you store it in your cave and then you have to wait and learn how to wait, and that's it's much more fun than going in a shop and getting your bottle ready to be opened. It's more personal, yeah. But it's a commitment because you need the space, you need the time, you need everything. But it's when you open one of your bottles, then it's a different story.
You can really tell. Look, yeah, it's more personal, really. 2015, also a big boy.
Big boy as well. 77 Cabernet Sauvignon, 23 Merlot. There you start to have a hint of evolution. For me, there is a kind of cigar box. There is a hint of graphite.
Minerality as well. Wow. The last time I tasted this one was, I think, 2 years ago. I'm very surprised what 2 years can do for development of a wine.
I would say it needs more time. It's a little bit more sharp than the 16, and it needs food. You know, it needs a côte de bœuf or a duck breast once again to balance these tannins. But it's and the fruit is just there, and it's oils and stays and stays.
Very long finish. Wow.
A nice complexity.
Complexity is indeed very interesting.
And it's fun to see that you have to go down to 15 to have a tiny hint of evolution. 16 was still a baby. 17 as well was very nice. 18 was still very tight. But yeah, you need a good 5-6 years to have a hint of evolution.
So can you maybe compare 2015 and 16 with the 2009 and 10 difference? 2009 more approachable, but 2010 maybe better in the future?
I would say so, yeah. It's true that you often have this kind of similarities. You know, we used to talk about 89 and 90, exactly the same for 2009 and 2010. Yeah, I would say even if 10 is maybe more complete than the 16, there are similarities.
Okay. Interesting. So now the hardest question of all. If you need to pick one of these vintages to have in your cellar or to advise to the people, which one do you pick? Personal favorite.
In terms of bargain, I would go on the 17. The price is low and the pleasure is there. But in terms of storage, I would go for the 18, which is for me one of the top we've done. That has a very long aging potential and yeah, very nice price as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this vertical tasting.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.
I've learned so much. It's really interesting to see the evolution of the wine, and I'm looking forward to coming again.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.